Also, is it necessary for people to view the face of the deceased? No. That's become a that's become a big tradition. And sometimes people aren't buried until the face is seen. So they have this huge group of, I remember there was one I attended where they opened it, the face, they revealed the face for people to see. It was winter time when Maghrib, Asr and Maghrib were very close together. And they nearly had to miss Maghrib because it took so long to everybody to see the face. He was a well-known person. And then, to do the burial. So it's not necessary. So recently when my uncle passed away, we only allowed the very close family members to see. Because there's no harm in seeing. The Prophet ﷺ was seen by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. He was there, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came, he kissed him on his forehead and he said, "Tibta hayyan wa mayyitan." You're so pleasant both in your life and in your death. So seeing the face, there's nothing wrong with it, right? In that sense. But when it becomes a culture and you just see it because it's a tradition. One is the close one, he's got a desire to have one last look. Alhamdulillah. But strangers, we just want to see him. Or you should see him. Everybody's seeing him, so I should see him. That's where the problem comes. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with seeing per se. It's just when it becomes a necessary part of the ritual, that's when it becomes problematic. If it is such a sensitive time for the family and some people are offended if not given a chance to view the deceased's face, and I find this quite strange. Yes, I agree with you. If it's close friends and family, then you should oblige because they've got a desire as well. They were friends. And if the Prophet ﷺ has told us that when your parents pass away and your father passes away, it's good for you to be good to their friends, to keep a tie of kinship with your father's friends, with your parents' friends. That's mentioned. So if you're supposed to be good with your father's friends, for example, then allowing such close people, close friends and so on to see, then you shouldn't be overly sensitive. It's from both sides, right? Some people make it a ritual and want to see and they don't even know the person, or they just kind of knew him from afar. That's a problem. There's other people I've also seen where they become so protective that they don't want anybody to come and see, or even when they're ill or something. Now I know that our culture is such that we can flood the hospital, right, with people, and I know that causes a big aggravation for people. So sometimes you do have to, but maybe then you can just be selective to allow some people and just explain. The problem comes is when you don't educate people of why you're doing something. So recently when there was a particular mayyit of that nature, some of the friends of the deceased as family were being very protective, and the relatives were feeling left out. The relatives were feeling left out because the deceased family. Now the problem is that our culture, we know that when there's a mayyit, we're going to stay there like 24 hours a day. That's a bit wrong as well. You're supposed to go and do condolence and sit as much as is conveniently comfortable for both. The person who's mourning, the wife or the husband, whoever it is, they've also got issues. They also need some time off. If you're going to stay there the whole day, then you have to worry about food and lots of management has to take place. It's weird because the visitors think, the close ones, they think you must stay there the whole day for 3 days and you must drop your work and everything and do that. And the person who's mourning, they can't tell you no. So it gets really confusing. That's why one very good thing that I saw in the local area is that when the father passed away, they actually put a nice notice up outside the door of the house. With how to come and do iyada, how to come and give condolence, how long you should stay, all the virtues and everything, so that whenever visitors came, they generally got to read that. This is what's missing. With us, because it's a certain culture, we just think it has to be done. But the family, they need to manage people's expectations. So they need to make an announcement and send it around to everybody that, look, this is how we'd like it, this is visiting hours, and this is time when only the family will be there. So if you want to come at this time. Then you're going to have to be a bit flexible if somebody comes from far and they didn't know, right? You have to play it like that. But I think one of the biggest things that are missing is sensitivity towards these things. And number two, no education. You're not managing people's expectations. If you don't want people to come, say so. But say it nicely. Let them know from before. Manage the whole thing in terms of a schedule. And try to do the best that you can. And just have a kind of a strong, firm person, but a polite person to deal with all of these things. Don't get somebody who's very rash and who will cause much more harm than good. Get a person who's decent, who can explain to people, give them some assurance, confidence, and things like that.